Star Wars 7 by 7 episode 2469. So about that leaked Obi-Wan set footage that's been making the internet rounds, well, don't worry, there's no spoilers involved in that video really, or in the conversation we're about to have, but we might as well talk a little bit about how filming is working in this new day and age. Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7 by 7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy. And thank you so much for joining me for it. So, let's talk about filming, and in particular we'll start talking about filming for The Mandalorian, because that sort of sets the foundation for the kind of filming that's happening for the live action series for Disney+. The Andor series we'll get to in a moment, but that seems to be developing as an exception to the comparative rule. But for The Mandalorian, all of the scenes for The Mandalorian were either filmed within the volume, within the whole ILM stagecraft thing that has the circular room with the LED screens and can actually do it on the ceiling as well, or there was a back lot in El Segundo, California, and that is near Los Angeles International Airport. And it was there that scenes like, for example, the exterior scenes with Moff Gideon lining up all the stormtroopers to shoot up where the Mandalorian and company were hiding out, right? So scenes like that were filmed on the back lot. And if I'm not terribly mistaken, I think the scene in chapter 1 for The Mandalorian where IG-11 shows up to shoot up all of the mercenaries protecting Baby Yoda, I think that one was shot out there as well. So that was it basically, the volume and that El Segundo backlot for season 1, and the same for season 2 with the exception of one actual physical location, which I had seen some outlets saying it was Death Valley where this was filmed. Well, that's not really the case, and that is a rather important point to make. So for one thing, the scenes were actually shot in and around Rocky Peak Park in Simi Valley, California, which is a little bit north of Los Angeles. But the thing that's worth talking about with the whole Death Valley thing is that there's a particular aspect about filming for The Mandalorian that I don't think has been talked about very much, and it seems like it might have been pioneered to some degree during the filming of Solo: A Star Wars Story. And in the making of book that's done by Rob Bredow, the book talks about how they did all of this shooting of photos and video for reference material for the Vandor 1 train heist scene. And they were basically able to recreate the entirety of the scene, the entirety of the train track and the mountain passes and all that inside their computer systems. So that was fabulous for them to help them visualize that action sequence. And I have seen hoity-toity things like, I think it was the New York Times that said this was the most coherently realized action sequence in a decade or something like that. But I'm slightly digressing. The point I'm trying to make is that there have been reports of people being sent to places like Iceland and Chile to do photography and get reference material for things that were used in The Mandalorian. So basically, the creation of the backdrops, the creation of the environments could be done simply by sending scouting locations folks to take photos and video and get all the reference material they can grab a hold of, and then dump that all into the computer systems to create the environment. Yes, I'm sure there's, some stuff that they have to do to make it work for stagecraft, but you get the idea. Now, the Andor series is different because it's filming in London, so it has the whole Pinewood Studios situation happening, and it's being filmed like your traditional motion picture, if you will. And so now we work our way to the Kenobi series, and considering the cast announcement, there's a part of me that wants to say that it's gonna lean more toward the Andor side of things than it would, say, the Mandalorian side of things. In other words, that they might build more sets, that they might actually go out on location. There might be, bigger visualizations and implementations, that sort of thing. Which is where we end up with the footage that purports to have been leaked from an external set, an on-location set for for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. So the thing that strikes me about it isn't necessarily any familiarity about the buildings or anything like that. I mean, I will say that it didn't necessarily look like anything we saw in The Marshal, for example, for The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 1, Chapter 9. But what I will say is that the background, the environment in which it is built, there are mountains all around in the background and seemingly pretty nearby, and different from the kind of environment that we saw in the Simi Valley shooting for The Mandalorian. And it's also definitely not anywhere near Manhattan Beach or El Segundo. That is for sure. So yeah, it seems like the fine folks at Lucasfilm are going out and about. And, you know, whether it's really for the Kenobi series or maybe it was a struck set for the Book of Boba Fett or something like that, you know, just throwing out possibilities. But I think, yeah, it's probably more likely to have been legit, that somebody actually stumbled across the Obi-Wan set and drove through it, shocking as that may seem. Because when you think about it in context anyway, for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, we know that Obi-Wan is going to be departing the planet at some point. Like, they've said that publicly as part of the, you know, press materials, Investor Day, and stuff, you know, coming out of that, right? So that's been established already. But where's Obi-Wan keeping any sort of starfighter, or is he even keeping any sort of starfighter stashed anywhere? Well, you know, maybe he doesn't have to go to Mos Eisley, but he's certainly familiar with it, and he has been there in the comics, and he's even, you know, like, had altercations there. So he's definitely familiar with that place. So yeah, it does stand to reason that this could quite well be a Mos Eisley exterior that is being built for the purposes of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. But in that sense, it's not, you know, something that I would even think of as a spoiler, because my gosh, you know, contextually he should be right there anyway. So there you go. That is what I have to say about the Obi-Wan set video, as well as a whole bunch of stuff about how they are filming Star Wars for Disney Plus these days, and that's going to do it for this episode of the show. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it, as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.